Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. I'm Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter and I can't scroll in the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, so you can catch up on our other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So you have it to miss them. You can go back and listen and watch them at your own leisure. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, please follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. You want to subscribe to our podcast? We know that many of you have. For those of you that have been left out in the cold, get back inside and subscribe to us. We are available at WARR Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give WARR Media a follow on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. Once again, that's at WARR Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly or stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools the bill and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, just hit up that Google Play Store. If you're on your laptop, your personal PC, your Chromebook, you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, just go to that Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and extract Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So once again, no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
All right.
Carry on, as you would say.
Yeah, that's it. Carry on. We have a big, busy show ahead here on Second City Sports. Of course, we're going to talk some NBA, some big decisions the Bulls will have to make, and also other teams as well coming up this week. You also have some NFL news. I know they're a little bit on a break before training camp, but and of course, we're going to have Old School TV Monday. Since today is Monday, but let's get right to it and talk some baseball. A mixed bag for our Chicago teams. The Cubs, London calling. They split their series with the Cardinals in London. A tough loss on Sunday. Of course, Stroman was taken out. He had a 5-0, 4-0 lead, I should say, but he was taken out. Then he had a blister. And then you had, an error by Mancini that helped kind of, start the rally by the Cardinals. But they did split their series in London, and I can't tell the ballpark. I mean, the ballpark doesn't. I don't know. I'm not sure if that ballpark is a hitter's ballpark or more of a pitcher ballpark. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But not a bad showing. You thought we expect them to split their series, and it'll be interesting to see, especially now that the Reds have lost 2 in a row. We'll get to that after the break. But so, what do you think about the Cubs and how they looked over in London?
This is kind of what I expected. To win one and lose one in London. They definitely had that opportunities in yesterday's game, as you mentioned before. That big costly error by Trey Mancini, who played first base for the Cubs yesterday. And, of course, the 4-0 lead that Stroman was given was eventually gone. But I was impressed by the Cubs' offense. As we said, Lakina, if this offense can score between 4 or 6 runs a game, that gives that starting pitching a great chance to win games. And that's what you saw what happened on Saturday's game. Justin Steele had 8 strikeouts to start a left-hander. I think he would be your other all-star representative if it wasn't for his injury early in the season. But that young man pitched his you-know-what off and to hold down the Cardinals at bay. Also, with that Cubs offense, Seiya Suzuki's batting started to come alive. Ian Happ, who had 2 home runs on Saturday. Dansby Swanson, who had a home run on Saturday. He had another RBI yesterday. And also to Nico Horner, that leadoff guy. He's starting to pick it up right now. So you were encouraged about what you saw from the Cubs. Yes, yesterday's loss stinks, but the offense, as we said for the last few weeks, is starting to come around. You just hope that that starting pitching will stay healthy. As you mentioned, hopefully Marcus Stroman will make his next start after that blister injury yesterday. But one of the main things that I'm concerned about now, Lakina, besides Trey Mancini being filling at first base, is that bullpen. Now, the bullpen yesterday, they just had to do mop-up duty because the game got out of hand. But I'm encouraged by their offense. I'm encouraged by their starting pitching. Kyle Hendricks looks like he's starting to, even though he didn't pitch this series, he's starting to come around. Justice Steele made a statement on Saturday. Marcus Stroman was good for the first couple of innings. So, as we said before, the Cubs are carried by their starting pitching and defense, but it looks like the offense is starting to come around, and that's what you like to see.
Yeah, especially as we're getting a little bit closer to the All-Star break, you want to have everybody kind of like in sync. So that's probably that's what you want, especially if you're the Cubs. And they do have a tough series starting tomorrow against the Phillies. I know they had a rough weekend, so. But then again, we'll see. I mean, look, I think if Steele had a really great start, like you said, and he was actually able to, kind of, sort of had the bats, really cold for the Cardinals. So that helped their loss. I mean, their cause a little bit. And also, too, like you said, I mean, Stroman did have a solid outing, but yeah, that blister started developing. Hopefully it's not too serious and he may have to maybe at the most miss one start if he has to miss a start. But it's going to be interesting, as the trucks go by at Sid's place. But look, live folks are doing this live. But yeah, I mean, look, if you got me feeling pretty good where you're at, if you're the Cubs right now, especially you're only 3 back of the Reds, and everyone started to kind of get it going there. I mean, you had Horner had a couple of good good hits. Chris Morrell has some solid hits as well. Ian Happ was really good in that Saturday game, and it was actually okay in yesterday's game too. So yeah, so everything's starting to kind of mesh for the Cubs. Hopefully they can keep it up, and hopefully we'll be, the Cubs will be actually at least near, even closer, or perhaps maybe not lead the NL Central, but probably at least be close to it by the time, before the All-Star break.
Yeah, all the Cubs have to do is play at 500 balls, slightly above 500. They should be near the top of the division by the All-Star break, as you mentioned. Like you said, they return home to a 3 tough game series against the Philadelphia Phillies before they had to play the Cleveland Guardians this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, for 3 at the Friendly confines. Am I correct on that?
Hold on, let me check real quick. This is live, folks. But yeah, as I'm looking through their schedule, but yeah, I mean, they do have a tough schedule this week. So like I said, I mean, this is sort of like the time where you want to try to get those wins. Look, you split your series against the Cardinals. We were nice you had swept them, but look, it is what it is with that. They do have Philly and they do have Cleveland. So
that was correct
this weekend. Yeah. So and then after that they play Milwaukee in Milwaukee for 4. Then they have 3 at Yankee Stadium before the All-Star break. So you want to try to get some of these wins as much as you can, at least split some of these series, and at least not get swept. So this way you can kind of like keep pacing that NL Central.
Yeah, because we'll talk about this division next and probably more after the break. But you talk about the AL Central being a crap show, a comedy show. The NL Central is not too far behind either. As we said, we'll get to what happened with the rest of the division on the other side of this break. But the Cubs are right there. From top to bottom, probably next to the Cincinnati Reds. They're the most experienced and talented team on paper. They could just put it all together. I think they'll be okay. As we said, just play 500, slightly above 500 baseball, and you will be there. And you will hope that GM Carter Hawkins and President of Baseball Ops Jed Hoyer will make some moves, especially for that bullpen at the trade deadline. Perhaps get a veteran arm or 2 from that bullpen, because they do have a lot of options, especially from a neighboring team in town. But I'm sure we'll discuss that as this hour goes along. But you can get some veteran bullpen help and perhaps get a third baseman. We'll see what happens. You still have less than 5 weeks to go before the trade deadline on August 2nd. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Should be interesting there. I just listen to Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Talking some local baseball here. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown. Let's talk your White Sox. They had a solid showing. They beat the Red Sox 2 out of 3. And you saw Luis Robert Jr. making a case for another. He's making a case for perhaps maybe getting a chance to go to Seattle for the All-Star game in a few weeks. Had a couple big home runs, especially in the Saturday and Sunday game that kind of helped both that game open. Then he had 2 home runs yesterday to kind of power the White Sox past the Red Sox. And solid showing pitching wise. I mean, you win 2 out of 3, yay! With which oddly enough, the Red Sox are actually, if you go by they're the quote unquote the worst team in the AL East. So I guess you can kind of take solace in that, but. I mean, look, you show a little bit of flashes. Look, like I said, Robert Jr., I think he's like 45, not 45 home runs, but I guess he got about 45 RBIs this year or something like that. So I think for me, look, okay, you beat the Red Sox. That's nice. You're still 6 back in the AL Central. So I don't know what else, but yeah, I guess you could kind of take. You have a tough West Coast trip. Well, okay, I'll say the Angels, starting tonight. You got to go all the way across country, it's the Angels. Then you have to, with Ohtani. I know they're not going to be in a good mood. We'll get to that in a second. But what do you think about your White Sox this week, Sid?
As we said all year long, you saw in this series this past weekend against Boston, they're led by their starting pitching. Lucas Giolito, he had a great performance on Friday with 10 strikeouts, but that damn offense has been inconsistent all year, and it wreaked its ugly head once again on Friday. But Saturday's game and yesterday's game, it came through when it needed the most. So, of course, 4 solo home runs on Saturday for the White Sox. Just get some men on base. You would have won the game earlier, but I digress. But Elvis Andrus came through on Saturday with that game-winning hit. To get the monkey out there back for the White Sox. Kendall Graveman, I know he's going to have some trade value if the White Sox keep losing, but as we said before, Lakina, he's not your permanent closer for the future. And this is what happens when you have your best reliever on the shelf in Liam Hendricks. It looks like he may be back after the All-Star break, so we'll see what happens with that. In regards to yesterday's game, it was a bullpen day for the White Sox. Jesse Schultz did a great job. Tanner Banks, who came in and he actually started the first 3 innings. He did an excellent job yesterday, got out of a couple of jams. And, of course, the White Sox offensively did just enough to beat the Red Sox. And as I said on Twitter yesterday, those 2 home runs by Luis Jr., that doesn't put him in the All-Star game. I don't know what does.
Yeah, definitely making a case there. But like I said, I mean, look, you did a decent job. I mean, look, your starting pitcher was actually pretty solid. Your bats, actually showed up, which, okay, yay, that's great. And look, and it's one of those days where the Benintendi actually had a solid showing. Elvis Andrus, who had that go ahead run on Saturday. I mean, okay, yeah, that's nice. Okay, great. I mean, look, like I said, I'm not. I mean, you won a series. The first series that you won 2 weeks. Okay, so it's just hard for me to kind of get into are the Sox back mentality. But I digress there too. But look, I mean, look, you take the series if you're the White Sox. Got to take a World Series at a time. I know some people even said that Robert Jr. could probably be traded, especially if he keeps it up. So who knows? Look, who knows how this team's going, especially with TA on the IL still. So. I honestly don't know what else to say about this win for the Sox. I mean, look, you won a series, that's nice, but I'm not gonna be overly, yay, jumping for joy about it. Sorry, I'm not.
I get the pessimism because, as we said all year, this team is consistently inconsistent, and we'll see what happens with this West Coast road trip coming up. Speaking of Tim Anderson, I know they're not going to put him on the IL because they've been playing him at second base, and that error that he had on Saturday, which led to the tying run for Boston, looked bad, and that's what happens when you haven't played a position consistently like he's been doing at shortstop for years. And so there you go with Tim Anderson. We know he's not fully healed, but the White Sox will have to manage this carefully. We'll see what happens down the road. Andrew Benintendi, as you mentioned, came through with a big RBI yesterday. He's your leadoff hitter until further notice. And I know he doesn't have the world's greatest speed, but he has enough to lead the team in stolen bases. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. So he's a professional. He has professional at-bats, and he gets on base. The Sox just got to drive him in with some consistency. You saw that a little bit yesterday. Now, with this road trip they're starting tonight at Anaheim, you have 4 against the Angels. Like you mentioned, Shohei Ohtani will go tomorrow against Michael Kopech. Now, here's the thing, Lakina. Any and every scenario is possible except for them going 7-0. That's not going to happen. Let's be real here. They're not going 7-0 on this road trip. I think realistically, if you're a Sox fan, if you could just split these 4 games in Anaheim and sweep Oakland, That's a successful road trip. You would think 2 in Anaheim, 3 in Oakland. That's 5 out of 7. That's a good stretch, and you could perhaps creep a little bit closer to the Minnesota Twins in the AL Central. But watch, here's what's going to happen. They'll beat Ohtani tomorrow, maybe squeeze one more game in the Angel series, and then lose 2 out of 3 in Oakland. I don't want to put it out there, but you wouldn't be shocked if that scenario happened, would you?
No, heck no, especially the way this
See?
year is played this year. Not a chance. Oh no, look if they beat Ohtani, I mean, but then lose the other 2, or at least the next 2 out of the next 3 after that, then they actually end up losing 2 out of 3, which has happened before, oddly enough. So that's why I said, I mean, this team can't be trusted. So yeah, you had you had a nice win against the Red Sox, okay, but you're going into kind of like a little bit of a trap, especially that Oakland series. I mean, the A's are not very good, but look, we've seen weird things happen. The Sox play the A's for some reason, so it'll be interesting to see as that series coming up. So we're taking a really quick break. Of course, we're going to talk more baseball after this. Bats come alive, and a whole lot of weirdness and a lot of runs and everything else in between. Keenan McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Fun Field Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find me at Keenan McGill on the Twitter and at Keenan Score again, the IG.
And we have less than 85 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. So if you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, let's talk the rest of MLB. Definitely a mixed bag among some of the teams. We'll start with, I guess, the best team in the league, the Rays. Of course, they went 3 out of 4 against the Royals. That would have been a pretty disappointment. They split that series, but they continue to sort of be that team that kind of a home run. I mean, so Jose Siri had had another home run in that Sunday matchup, and also too a solid pitcher performance. Tyler Glasgow, there's very solid showing there in that Sunday game again. So looking at the Rays, I mean they're continue to show you why they are the best team in the league.
Yeah, don't forget about Wander Franco, Yander Diaz, and Randy Arozarena, the former leadoff hitter. He's batting third or fourth in the lineup for Tampa Bay. As we said before for years on this show, give manager Kevin Cash credit. They don't have a bunch of big boppers in the lineup, but they played the game right. They're fundamentally sound. They have great starting pitching. Their bullpen has actually come alive as well. I know former White Sox reliever Jake Diekman's down there now. He's doing okay for them so far. But as you mentioned, Tyler Glasnow, remember he had Tommy John surgery about almost 2 years ago. He's now starting to come back. Don't forget about the left-hander Shane McClanahan, who's one of the best left-handed starting pitchers in baseball. So he has a roller right now. So Tampa Bay, even though they kind of scuffled a little bit last week, they split against Baltimore, as you mentioned. They win the series against Kansas City. This team is going to be reckoned with come playoff time. Yes, they're going to go through their struggle just like everybody else, but this is a fundamentally sound team. If you have to beat them, you have to beat them at their game. If you make a mistake against them, they're going to make you pay for it.
Yes, they will, and make sure you got to be careful about that. But probably the series of the weekend, was the Astros and the Dodgers. Last night's game was actually pretty entertaining. Alex Bregman's game winner in the 11th, got that, the Astros to win that series. This is despite, shout out to Freddie Freeman, got his 2000 career hit. That actually tied that game. So, congrats to him. But, of course, Alex Bregman, of course, brought the game up with the go-ahead RBI in the 11th. But, so, yeah, the Astros win 2 out of 3. Maybe a little bit. Maybe we'll see this again in the World Series. We'll see. But what do you think about this series? It was actually pretty entertaining.
Speaking of entertainment, did you check out Saturday's game?
Yes,
and
I did.
Doug Stanek, the reliever from the Houston Astros, a balk with the bases loaded, and then he started yelling. He started yelling at the second base umpire after that whole scenario was over. Of course, the Dodgers took a 7-6 lead. They ended up winning that game. Of course, you mentioned they failed to sweep yesterday, so the Dodgers ended up taking the first 2 games before Houston won last night in extra innings. But Doug Stanek, that was clearly a balk. And shout out to our guy Jordan Lisowski. I don't know if you saw his tweet. Someone was trying to debate him that it wasn't a balk. Jordan Lisowski said, "Yeah, look at Doug's right knee. That tells you all you need to know."
Yeah, exactly. So they were able to avoid the sweep. They're talk about the Astros. That's actually their first. That's actually their first extra inning win in 7 tries this year, which is kind of odd. But yeah, so it was pretty. That was a pretty interesting game there as well on Saturday. Yeah, that balk was. Yeah, that was a balk, folks. Sorry for anybody that thought that wasn't. But yeah, that was a balk. His knee flinched, so that wasn't. Because was not very happy with that call, and neither were the Astros. So, but
Dusty looked like you wanted to throw everything in the dugout onto the field.
Dusty's very mild mannered for the most part.
Yeah,
so if he was pissed, you knew something was up. But the good news is for the Astros, they did avoid the sweep. Spoiler, of course, Freeman's getting his 2000 career hit, and he actually is. I'm talking about Freeman. He's actually the 6th active player with at least 2000 career hits. So, of course, Miggy Cabrera is the active leader for the Tigers with a little over 3,100 hits. So, congrats to Freeman as he joins that pretty exclusive club there. So, let's see what else. The Angels. Speaking of the Angels, of course, who the White Sox will be playing starting tonight. They had a pretty weird series against the Rockies.
Yeah,
if you will. let's see here. How do I want to recap this? Now they did lose 7-4 in the opener at Coors. Then they actually win Saturday's game 25-1. I'm not. That's not a typo. I'm not.
No mercy rule here.
What'd you say, Sid? I'm sorry.
I said no mercy rule there.
Right, 25-1. This actually despite Ohtani not having his best hitting. So it was actually Mike Trout, Brandon Drury, and Matt Diaz, hit the back to back home runs on 3 straight pitches off the Rockies in that game on Saturday against Chase Anderson. The last time a team did that, hit 3 home runs in 3 straight pitches, was the Yankees on September 2020 versus the Blue Jays. So, and then of course, like I said, Ohtani had the fewest hits. He only had 1 hit that game. But then, of course, at Coors, of course, that actually makes sense. But of course, the Rockies turned around and ended up winning that series 4-3. So that was just, like I said, that was a very strange series all around. So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what else I could add to that other than that. Like I said, Anaheim's bats came alive on Saturday, but I heard someone say this yesterday doing one of the telecasts that when you score runs and bunches like that in a couple of games, or in this case with the Angels on Saturday in one game, it's hard for you to keep that momentum up actually the next few days. Mm-hmm. I know the Angels barely scored 3 runs yesterday. They lost the game in the series yesterday. But we'll see what happens if this has a long-lasting effect because, as we said, they host the White Sox for 4 games starting tonight. They're in the division race with Texas and Houston. So the Angels, they can't really fall out too much. I know their starting pitching stacks have been pretty decent this year.
Yeah.
Their bullpen still has a little bit more work to do, but we all know that they're led by Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout offensively. So those other bats they got going on Saturday, they need to keep going as well to help out Ohtani and Trout.
Yeah, they just go to franchise on that Saturday's game. They got a franchise for 13 runs in the 3rd inning, so that basically just broke the game wide open. Everyone was making fun of it, but it was just hilarious. But yeah, I wonder if our buddies Christy Mack or Cax being her fiance Chris Gilman, I wonder if they got like a friendly wager there for that series, that Sox Angels series started tonight. We gotta ask them.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we gotta ask. I'm sure they got a nice little friendly wager there. We'll see. We'll ask them that in a couple of weeks. But probably another series that actually turn some heads was the Braves Red series, of course. Excuse me. That was a pretty interesting series too. Very entertaining. Another very entertaining series, I should say. 11-10, of course. The Reds won that. Is sort of kind of a slugfest there, but the Braves actually come out to win 7-6. Both scores were 7-6 in that Saturday and yesterday's game, so they won the series there. But yeah, so that helps the Cubs out a little bit. I'm sure a lot of Cubs fans are happy or grateful for that. Matt Olson had the go-ahead homer that helped the Braves, take that the game and that series. So what did you think about that one?
As you mentioned, it was a very entertaining series. The Cincinnati starting pitching took a beating over the weekend. Their bullpen, which has been very good over the last 2 or 3 weeks, it got touched up as well. Atlanta is one of those teams that they've been together for a few years. Of course, they won the World Series a couple of years ago. They know what to do in tough situations with young teams like the Cincinnati Reds. They have to go through these types of experiences and know what to do in these situations. They play fun, entertaining baseball. Shout out to Ellie De La Cruz, excuse me, but he brings that that rookie brings that energy to the clubhouse. Of course, Jonathan Indian, who's been there for the last few years, he's solid. Of course, that veteran Joey Votto, who has had a heck of a return this week from injury. Of course, he has 3 home runs. He had another one in that series opener last Friday. So that Cincinnati Reds team is fun to watch. Hopefully, they can get their starting pitching back on track, because that's really been one of their early surprises from early in the season. So the Cincinnati Reds, I don't know if they're going to take the division. I think they're still a year away, but I said this a couple weeks ago. I'll continue to say this until further notice. They will give some teams problems. Yeah, you cannot count them as an easy win anymore.
Yeah, the Braves snapped that 12-game winning streak against the Reds. That's actually the longest single season win streak that's snapped by a Braves team. I go all the way back to 1986, that first year that they moved to Atlanta. So it's been that long, oddly enough, since they've actually had to break a big streak like that. So yeah, I mean, if you're the Braves, you gotta be feeling encouraged. But at the same time, the Reds, you won 12 in a row, which is right near a franchise record. And again, we'll see if they can. I don't think they'll win the division either. I mean, you still got the Brewers right there. We'll talk about them in a second. They got the Cubs right there as well. Maybe the Pirates might still be a factor. Who knows? But again, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. But yeah. So what else caught your eye this week?
Yeah, and speaking of the Brewers, they take 2 out of 3 from Cleveland, including winning in extra innings yesterday to take that series. Speaking of the NL Central, so as we mentioned, that's going to be a competitive division. As I mentioned, Milwaukee is the National League lower tier version of the White Sox. You could barely get something out of them offensively, but historically, their starting rotation and their bullpen has been pretty good. So, and that's what you saw this weekend with clutch hits from the Brewers. Also, sticking with the National League. What's up with the San Diego Padres? Their bullpen and their starting staff has imploded, and the Washington Nationals were able to walk away with that series winning the last 2 games.
Yeah, this is by win that first game 13-5. You thought that maybe maybe they could Nationals could they could actually win 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, but that didn't happen. So yeah, you wonder what's going on. Are we going through like the cycle again where you thought that maybe the Padres would actually be right there, give the Giants and the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers some problems, but no, they're back to kind of like where they were early in the season. So I just don't know. I mean, that's the Padres are a very tough team to figure out. So we'll see if they can kind of like get it going, because this is actually the time to do it. So you got about 6-7 weeks before the All-Star break. The last thing you want is to perhaps maybe be near the bottom, fighting for not only forget the division for a second, but what about a playoff spot in general?
Yeah, and staying with that the NL West race, pardon me. You mentioned the Arizona Diamondbacks. They avoided being swept by the San Francisco Giants. They won the series finale on the road yesterday, 5-2. Of course, the Giants take the first 2 games of that series, 8-5 last Friday, of course, 7-6 last Saturday. Lakina, I'm not going to sit here and say that the San Francisco Giants are the team that they were coming out of nowhere 2 years ago, but this team can hit some hit in the clutch. Of course, Jock Peterson, Lamont Wade Jr., of course, Brandon Crawford still hanging around for some reason or another, and also too they get some good quality starts from their starting pitching, and their bullpen isn't too bad either, led by Will Rogers. So San Francisco, I think I trust them a little bit more. If you had to hold a gun to my head between San Francisco and Cincinnati, who you trust a little bit more, I say San Francisco because they've been together a little bit longer, but. San Francisco, I don't think they're going to stay out of this NL West race either. Like you said, San Diego wants to make a move. They got to make a move now, because I don't think that I don't think that San Francisco is going anywhere.
No, I think it's going to be a 3-team race between them, the Dodgers, and soon the Diamondbacks are still there. I still don't think the Diamondbacks are going to be up there. I just don't think they will. I think the lack of experience, that's what's gonna get them in the end. I think the Giants and the Dodgers, they've both been there, so I think it's gonna be between those two. If the Padres will get their act together, I mean, they could end up being on the outside like it in the cold. So I'm hoping that they'll figure it out. But yeah, I think the Giants are kind of like they're stabilized a little bit. So we'll see what happens there. Now, my Toronto Blue Jays, they win. They went 2 out of 3 against Oakland. I was a little bit miffed when they lost that first game, but they did bounce back. Of course, they beat Oakland 7-3, and of course 12-1. They just hammered them yesterday. So I'm feeling a little bit better now. That 12-1 win was behind Kayvon Biggio's 3-run home run. So. And of course, George Springer also had his 55th, I should say, career homer. So, I feel a little bit better about the Blue Jays a little bit. I think, with the Rays being as far ahead as they are, I don't want to say that the AL East is, gone, but you still got a shot at the wild card. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be, especially, these next few weeks before the All-Star race, it's going to be kind of a slug, but see how these teams can position themselves, especially in the wild card races.
As we always say about Toronto, they're led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and their offense it comes and goes sometimes because we all know that they hit home runs and score runs in bunches, and we saw that in the series against Oakland this past weekend. The other concern that I have is their starting pitch. I know you have Jose Barrios. We know Alex Manoah is down in rookie ball. I don't know if you're going to see him again this year, but the rest of that starting rotation is going to have to pick it up. Their bullpen is actually not too bad, but it's led by the offense. I'm concerned about the rest of that starting rotation. If they can get that together, get back on track, they could really be a dangerous team than what they are right now.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm a little Yeah, that's the thing I'm worried about with the Blue Jays. That's what kind of got them last year, the last couple years, I should say. So they really need to get that pitching together. So hopefully they can kind of get it going, and we'll see what happens with that. Now going back to the National League for a second, you got the Marlins. They win 2 out of 3 in their series. If I get my computer for a second, yeah, they win. Well, I should say they win 3 out of 4. I should say against the Pirates. Of course, they started playing on Thursday, and Yuri Perez on in that Saturday matchup, he struck out 9 over 6 scoreless innings, and he is the 5th pitcher to record consecutive games with at least 6 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, and 9 strikeouts before turning 21. He's only 20 years old right now. It says earned runs became the official stat back in 1913. So he's already making a case, I'm sure, for Rookie of the Year. And I'm wondering, could the Marlins, we kind of went through this with the Marlins last year. I mean, can they keep it up? Can they, the lack of experience? I mean, I know that there's been a lot of talk about maybe trading some of these guys, but I feel like the Marlins, could they perhaps maybe give the Braves some fits? Maybe, but but they're definitely they're kind of like the Reds in a lot of ways, that you can't count them as an easy when they have too many great players on that staff.
And also, too, their starting rotation is solid as well, led by Sonny Alcantara, last year's NL Cy Young Award winner. And they have a good bullpen as well. But don't forget about Luis Ariz, who was traded from Minnesota to the Marlins before the start of the season. He's on the quest for 400. I don't know if he'll get there, but I think if he stays healthy, he's going to make a good hell of a run at it. So Miami doesn't wow you on paper offensively, but they kind of like the national, smaller version of the National League's version of the Tampa Bay Rays. Also, too, don't forget about Chaz Chisholm Jr. He's another young stud as well, who's been around for the last couple of years. So Miami has a great young roster. Like I said, it's head by their young starting staff, and you cannot count them as an easy win anymore. I think I have more faith in them than Cincinnati. Even though Cincinnati is fun to watch right now, I have a little bit more faith in the Miami Marlins. Can they challenge the Braves? I think they can, but I don't think they'll have enough horses yet to overtake them.
Not yet, not just yet. I think you got the experience and the veteran experience from the Braves, so I think that definitely kind of will. If anything, they'll definitely give teams some fits, especially the Braves. So we'll see what happens there. As Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you as we're talking some more around the Diamond Talk. Now, what else kind of caught your eye, either on the field or off the field, or any weirdness?
Wrapping up the comedy of divisions of the AL Central, of course, the Minnesota Twins. Yeah. the Minnesota Twins take 2 out of 3 from those frauds in the Detroit Tigers. Detroit had a chance to win that series yesterday, but comedy of errors and the other silly stuff, and Minnesota took advantage of those miscues yesterday. Of course, Carlos Correa has been on a mini power streak lately. He had another home run yesterday, and of course, as I mentioned, Minnesota wins the game 6-3 yesterday to take 2 out of 3 in Motown. And back to the NL East, those New York Mets, Lakina, they lose 2 out of 3 to Philadelphia. You didn't, only that your offense did enough yesterday, but your bullpen pissed in the pan yesterday. Not one, but 2 hit batsmen in the 8th inning with the bases loaded. What's going on here?
Like you said, comedy of errors, I guess, with the Mets there. Of course, we heard about, some people already say that maybe, Buck Showalter should have his, should get the axe, but they have not had a good showing. They've been very disappointing. You lose 2 out of 3, to Houston, then you lose 2 out of 3 against your division rival, the Phillies. And look, I don't know. I mean, the bullpen has been, melting down. Of course, Scherzer and Verlander, they've been up and down. Your hitting's been inconsistent. So yeah, kind of like the White Sox, I guess. But they actually did, like you said, they did have a shot to win that series. But like you said, the bullpen just, I don't know what to say about that. But I don't know what to say. I don't know. Like you said, where's the circus music when you need it for that one? Because that was just a terrible show in there in the 8th inning by the Mets. So I don't know. I mean, you walk 3 batters, you hit 2, you make an error as well. So yeah, it was definitely a comedy of errors in that game yesterday, especially.
And also, too, for the weekend wrap-up, Lakina's other team, I don't know if she's going to divorce them or not, quote-unquote, but the Seattle Mariners lose 2 out of 3 to Baltimore on the East Coast over the weekend. And Julio Rodriguez was robbed of a home run yesterday by Anthony Santander. That was a great catch by Santander yesterday. Yeah. But Julio Rodriguez robbed, I forgot who it was, he took a home run away from Baltimore on Saturday, but payback, so you know what this what happened to him yesterday.
Yeah, they were not very happy with that home run, Robert by Rodriguez, and again, I was like, that was a great catch by Santander. So yeah, you got to give him a little bit of credit there for that. I mean, look, Baltimore, that's a great Baltimore squad. They got a solid squad, like I said, Santander, Ty France. I mean, that's a really good, good Orioles team. So yeah, I think they're, like I said, I'm not giving up on the Mariners just yet. I think, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. I mean, they've had a very tough schedule. They do play Washington with a little bit of home cooking starting tonight. So we'll see if they can kind of try to make it a little bit interesting here. But yeah, losing 2 in a row. I mean, I think they're still adjusting the fact that they're no longer the Hunters. They're now the Hunted. And like you said, Texas has been very good. Angels have kept it up so far. So that AL West is very tough for the most part. So yeah. They're in a very tough spot now, but yeah, I'm hoping they can turn around. I'm not losing hope on them just yet.
And speaking of the Texas Rangers, they lose 2 out of 3 in New York City over the weekend after the win in the opener last Friday, 4-2. The Yankees came back to win the last 2 games of that series, including yesterday's 5-3 win. Nathan Eovaldi, I think he had a no decision, but the 2 games last 2 games he's pitched in since Texas has been on this road trip, they lost it yesterday at Yankee Stadium. Of course, they lost last Tuesday's game on that BS blocking the play call in Chicago against the White Sox. But Garrett Cole did not look good yesterday for the Yankees, but those bats with Harrison Beta and Giancarlo Stanton came through in the later innings to help the Yankees take the series finale and take the series. I think we talked about this before we went live on air. This was a bigger series. It was a big series for Texas, but I think it was a bigger series for the Yankees because you still without Aaron Judge. He may return to the lineup later on this week or next week. We'll see what happens with that. But this was a bigger series for the Yankees.
Yeah, they really needed this to talk about the Yankees because, like you said, with Judge still being out with that toe injury and such. So yeah, that being able to kind of win the series is one of the best teams. I think that's really solid. Even though Garrett Cole did not have the best start, but yeah, look, I mean, Bader picked up the slack. They were able to kind of Cole got out of a couple of jams, a couple of times, and that 1-0 win on Saturday for the Yankees. I mean, it was really, Cody Holmes was able to get out of a couple of jams there, and that definitely helped them a little bit too. So yeah, if you're the Yankees, I'll say the Rangers first. I mean, it would have been great to have 1-2 out there at Yankee Stadium, but this is more important for the Yankees because just keep effective with the psyche of it, especially with just still struggling with that torn. Apparently now he has a torn ligament in his toe. So, geez, now we'll see if he is back. Whether he is supposed to come out in the next couple of weeks, but we won't know how he'll look. So. This is definitely something that you wanted for the Yankees, and I think this definitely the Yankees really need this series more than the Rangers did.
Yeah. Before we close up shop for hour number 1 here on Second City Sports, we'll give you the MLB schedule for tonight in the series that are starting tonight and the others that are starting tomorrow. Tonight's schedule looks like this: Monday, the White Sox will start their 4-game series on the West Coast against the Anaheim Angels tonight at 8:38 p.m. Central Standard Time. Dylan Cease will take the bump for the White Sox. He's looked great his last 3 starts. Hopefully he can keep it going. Hopefully he gets some offense to back him up, please, White Sox. Please help him out. Thank you. I digress. Another good interleague series here. Cincinnati at Baltimore. That's at 6:05 p.m. The Brewers at the disappointing Mets at 6:10. That's on ESPN+. The Minnesota Twins will head down to Atlanta to take on the Atlanta Braves. Go Braves for that. The Tigers will take on the Texas Rangers. That's at 7 o'clock. And the Washington Nationals will face Lakina Seattle Mariners. She's not giving up on them yet. They'll start that series at 8:40 p.m.
And some of the series that will be starting tomorrow. You got San Diego and Pittsburgh. That should be an interesting match.
Pirates been on the free fall.
Yeah, I know they've been pretty bad lately. San Francisco and Toronto. This is another chance that should be a fun series. There's a chance for Toronto to try to kind of right the ship a little bit. Miami and Boston. Safe to say they probably will not be in a good mood after losing that series to the White Sox. So we'll see. Where,
that's going to be a sneaky good series, I believe.
That is going to be a whole lot of fun. Houston and St. Louis and old NL matchups there here. A couple of rivals there. Detroit and you already did Detroit and Texas. Philadelphia and Chicago. The Cubs, they start that series tomorrow. Incidentally, that Minnesota Atlanta series, the second game of that series will be on TBS. That's going to be the Tuesday game of the week. Cleveland and Kansas City. Then you got the Dodgers and the Rockies. Then you got the Yankees and the A's. And I think Tampa and Arizona. That should be a sneaky good series too.
Yes, and that's your schedule for MLB for this upcoming week, Monday through Wednesday, right here. You're listening to Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. So that's your MLB schedule for the next couple of days to start off this week.
Absolutely. So, hour number one in the books. Hour number one in the books. Hour number two straight ahead. We're gonna talk some NBA, some free agency, and some big trades, including the one that just came down across the wires about 10 minutes ago. We'll talk about that. Also, some NFL news as well. Yes, there's some NFL news as well. We'll delve a little bit deeper into the Hockey Hall of Fame and also some sports media news. I know Sis got some sports media news he'll tell us about. Also, we got Old School TV Monday coming up next. So
going a little bit out of the box for this one today, so we wrap up Black Music Month. You guys are going to love this one.
Ooh, this should be, okay, a little teaser there. So, busy hour two coming up. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. We go to the hard court and the gridiron coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean,
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left or so on this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page. or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Makina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now or available on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. So we've got some lot to talk about still. Let's go to the NFL. Let's do NBA first because that's really the more pressing thing right now. Of course, a big trade just came across the pike a little over 20 minutes ago. The Hawks are finalizing a trade, according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. They're finalizing a trade to send John Collins to the Jazz for Rudy Gay and a future second-round pick. Atlanta's largely unloading Collins' contract, 3 years, $78 million for some roster building, flexibility, and alignment. So, with the chase of the salary cap, of course, we talked about the last couple of weeks. So what do you think about this trade?
Yeah, I think this was a salary dump, and John Collins, if you paid attention, he's been a name that's been floated out there in trade talks for the last 2 or 3 years. Of course, the Hawks made that surprising run to the Eastern Conference Finals during that 72-game shortened season a couple of years ago with Trae Young. He was a big part of that, but his future was always in flux, and now we know partially why, because of the money that he was making. But we'll see if they can keep Trae Young. Remember, they acquired Dejounte Murray, the former San Antonio Spurs, around this time last year via trade. So we'll see if they can build some better pieces around Trae Young. If they'll keep Trae Young, which I think they will, but will they build some better pieces around him? We'll see. But on the other hand, for Rudy Gay, I didn't know he was still playing, Lakina. You're talking about getting old. Oh, yours truly's getting. I remember he was coming out of UConn about 15, 17 years ago. I thought he quit by now, but I guess he still has some value. I don't know if he's going to play for the Atlanta Hawks. If not, I'm sure he's going to ask for a buyout. But we'll see what Atlanta does in terms of roster building for if they're going to add another veteran or not. Maybe DeMar DeRozan is in play for the Atlanta Hawks because he's entering his final year with the Chicago Bulls. And so we'll see if they're going to try to add those type of variants to go along with Trae Young. We'll see what the front office of the Hawks do this summer.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see what they decide to do. Like you said, with the change of the salary cap, I mean, it's going to be interesting, how everyone else is sort of going to be able to do this. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, the Damian Lillard situation keeps getting weirder. I mean, first, they thought that maybe he was going to stay. Then he said, "Oh, I want to leave." They say he wants to stay, and then he did an interview saying he wants to leave, and then he wants to see how Portland does. Of course, apparently he wasn't very happy that Portland actually used the second round pick instead of using it as a trade piece and all this stuff. Like, oh, my head hurts. Sid, what do you think? I'm kind of, I'm kind of like this whole thing's really like just making my head spin, like literally, like not.
It's almost like it's almost like the Lamar Jackson situation back with the Baltimore Ravens. Can we get a final resolution, please? Yes. Can we? And I like Damian Lillard personally, but I think it's time for him to go because I don't, Portland. They're in a reset mode right now. We mentioned all the young players they have with Anthony Simons and Scooter Henderson, who they picked up in the draft a couple days ago. So we mentioned all the options that Damian Lillard has. It's not that many, but some very good ones. Boston is probably outside shot because they made their trade for Porzingis. So I don't know. They're not the front runners, but I know one team should be in the front runner to get acquired by his services. That's the Miami Heat, as we talked about before. Him and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, they'll be in the top of the East again, and their chances will be better to get back to the finals than what they did this year. You would think that Philadelphia will still be in the mix to acquiring Mr. Lillard's services to go along with Joel Embiid. I know we'll get into free agency talk in just a moment, but you think that Philadelphia will be in play? Miami will be in play? No, not the Bulls. The Bulls will not be in play for Damian's services. So, Bulls fans, I hate to disappoint you, but Dame Dollar will not be coming to Chicago and wearing the Bulls uniform anytime soon. So,
Oh, and I know our buddy Mad Peck was very he was very losing sleep over that one. But yeah, I mean, look, I think if there is a trade and such, I mean, I'm sure. Look, if you're the brass with Portland, I think Dame's over 30 now. He's 32. I'm sure he's going to want to go someplace where he'll have a chance to win a ring, and you're going to have to reset if you're Portland. So, hopefully this will be resolved, and hopefully things will be figured out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Let's see. Josh Hart, of course, he was he was traded a couple of times. He's now with the Knicks. They actually they extended the player option, whether or not they're going to pick up his option. So we'll see if they do that. And same with the Knicks. D Rose, his option for next season was declined by the Knicks. So there are already some people in the Bulls, Bulls fans are already saying there should be kind of a reunion of some type. Look, I would love for D Rose to come back here, but where will he fit in this offense? And also, too, I mean, they're not close to win a championship. So, like, I don't, what would be I don't know, get the sense of that. What do you think, Sid? I just don't get it.
For the storyline of it, it'll be a great return for him to cap off his career. But for what the Bulls need right now, he's not the answer. If he would come back here, he'll be a guy off the bench. And I don't know if Billy Donovan will. Excuse me. I don't know if Billy Donovan will use him the right way. And for Bulls fans, you're not going to get the D Rose from early in his career. You're not going to get the 2015 Derrick Rose when that was at the end of that run with him and Jimmy Butler, Pau Gasol, and those in that group. So if he comes back, fine, but just lower your expectations. Me personally, I don't think that AK and Mark Eversley are going to go after him. The one player, as we delve into this free agency talk right now, the one person they should go after is Fred VanVleet. Of course, he declined his option with the Toronto Raptors earlier today. So that's the player that the Bulls should go after, especially with Lonzo Ball not playing next year. Probably, unfortunately, probably never play again. I don't want to put that out there, but we all know he's not going to play for this upcoming season. Perhaps he'll never play again in the Bulls uniform. We'll just say that. But they should go after Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have to cost a lot either. So, and I think, of course, he's from Rockford, so he's just from just outside the city. So, he would be kind of like giving the extra score. And actually, he actually plays defense too. So, he definitely could be that option, which the Bulls definitely they need shooting and they need a defender. So, you're gonna get that with Fred VanVleet. Even for me to say, I've been knowing this guy since Wichita State. I can't say still can't say the man's name, but that's a me problem. Not anybody else. But yeah, I think this would be a great. This would be like a great thing for the Bulls to get that extra body off the bench. A guy that can shoot, a guy that can defend. So hopefully, I'm sure the Bulls, are the only teams that will be vying for Mr. VanVleet's services. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Of course, your free agency kicks off Friday at 5:00 our time. They got until the 29th to pick up whether they want to pick up Andre Drummond's option, and they actually also have until the 30th to agree on an extension with Vooch. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this because I think this is pretty big for the Bulls. We'll see what direction they're going to be going.
If I had to give a prediction out, I think they'll decline the option on Andre Drummond and try to pull all their money into Vucevic. That's just my prediction. I don't know how you see it, but I think they'll decline the option of Andre Drummond and extend Vucevic. But as I said before, the Bulls will have to make a big move or two this offseason because if you bring the same roster back, we know that
Derrick Jones Jr.
Yeah, thank you, Derrick Jones Jr. Thank you. Sorry, my brain ain't working today. It's Monday. Derrick Jones Jr. declined his option, so he's going to become a free agent, and he's not coming back here. So, if you bring the same team back, you'll be slightly over the salary cap, and it's not worth it for a team that just barely won 40 games last year.
We just see if they decide, that they do try to go for the luxury tax, the way the new salary cap is going to be adjusted. So, if we just see how far AK can go with this, so. He may have something up. I'm gonna go by our buddy Big Dave Watson for CHGO's mantra. Let AK cook, and I'm sure he'll have something up his sleeve. So you never know what's going on in his mind. I know there have been rumors about Levine trade, but look, you're not gonna be able to move that contract, folks. I'm sorry. Now I don't know if they want to move DeMar either. So you may some look if you get VanVleet. I mean that could help a little bit. But again, like I said, I mean, it's going to be interesting, like what direction the Bulls decide to go with this. But they've got a lot of options, so I don't know if that's you can take that as a good or a bad thing. But
as we said before,
what'd you say?
Yeah, as we said before, this Bulls teams they need shooters or perhaps two shooters. I know I think. I don't know about Patrick Williams' situation, but I know Kobe White is a restricted free agent, so we know there's some teams that are trying to go after his services. Will it be worth it for the Bulls to match the offers from some of these teams that's going to be interested in Kobe's services? Well, we'll soon find out. But this Bulls team needs shooters, perhaps two of them, and that's one of the things that has hindered this Bulls team this last couple of years. Well, before people yell at me, well, Kobe White and Zach LaVine, they can shoot. Yeah, they can, but they're scorers who can't shoot. There's a difference.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I know IO is a restricted, I think, too, so that they can they got control of both those guys, Patrick Williams as well. So yeah, like I said, the Bulls are kind of in a very tough spot. I mean, that's not a big surprise. So you're interested to see where they go, what they do. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what's going to be the big thing here. And look, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what direction they decide to go with because. Like I said, who knows? They may have a trick up their sleeve, so we just don't know what's in their mindset. So I think, once free agency starts, I mean, it's going to be a feeding frenzy. So you've got guys like you said, Van Fleet, Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green. I mean, they're going to be guy. I mean, Van Fleet, I should say, and a few other guys as well. So there's going to be a whole list of free agents that are going to be on the market now later this week. So it's going to be interesting what they decide to do.
I would love for the Bulls to pick up a guy like Dylan Brooks. I know he was kind of, quote unquote, blackballed by the Memphis Grizzlies, and he was being blamed for why Memphis lost to the Lakers in the first round of this past year's playoffs. So, of course, it was other reasons because Steven Adams and Brendan Clark were hurt, and John Morant, his head wasn't there literally, no pun intended. So to put all that blame on Dylan Brooks was just silly. Yes, Dylan Brooks did some silly things too, but the problems in Memphis was way bigger than him. But I would like to see the Bulls pick up a guy like Dylan Brooks. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll see if they even kick the tires around bringing on Mr. Brooks to their team.
Yeah, I'm about to say maybe I know they go pretty far about talking about Brooks and Donovan, so maybe they will probably at least maybe he'd probably be pretty reasonably priced too. So it'd be interesting to see what happens here. What else? Who are the free agents? I know would you want a Harrison Barnes, a Will Barton? Let me see. I know you don't want Malik Beasley. Biyombo, is that Bismack Biyombo? Would that be a guy that you would want if you're the Bulls?
No. He's slightly older version for Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
So, no.
Thomas Bryant, who declined his option with the Nuggets, and now the defending champion Nuggets. Jared Butler, Javon Carter, Michael Carter Williams. Bring him back to the Bulls or something like that. So. You want to bring Michael Carter Williams back to the Bulls? I mean, that's a familiar name. But
any great shooters on that list, free agent list?
Hold on, let me see here. I'm looking. Let me see here, of course.
Yeah, because if not, like I said, the Bulls will definitely have to make some trades, perhaps a couple of trades to bring some shooters in here because this team desperately needs shooters.
Okay. Crowder, Seth Curry, maybe.
He wouldn't be bad for the Bulls.
Maybe reasonably priced too. Let's see here. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the most part. I mean, we're talking about shooters and guys that can defend. So the list is actually not that big. So like I said, Van Fleet's going to be like the big prize, and the Bulls are going to be trying to get that. But I'm sure there are going to be other teams that are going to be doing it too. So they'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm kind of interested. I can't wait till for free agents to start because it's going to get interesting to see where all this goes and where a lot of those guys are going to be going.
Yeah, as we said before, the Bulls need some cap flexibility. They're up against it, and they're going to have to make a couple of trades if they want at least a couple of these guys off the free agent market.
All right, as I can see, Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you, talking some free agency and a little bit of some basketball here. Now we're going to go switch gears here and talk a little bit of football now. I know they got a little bit of time between now and training camp, which starts about this time next month in some spots. Now, Dalvin Cook is a name that's still being, still on the market now. I'm sure he's taking his time now. I saw on Good Morning Football earlier this morning that maybe perhaps him, going to the Jets, perhaps, maybe, yes, no, maybe so. What do you think? Would that be a good fit for Mr. Cook?
I think it would make sense only because it will be soon the second-year running back Breece Hall, who tore his ACL last year. He actually he was on his way to a good rookie year, but until he tore his ACL in the game at Denver last year. So I think it will make sense for the Jets. They'll give another extra weapon for Aaron Rodgers coming out of the backfield. I think it would be a good tandem between him and Mr. Hall. I think that's the only reason why they were signing him, because they want to bring Breece Hall back. You don't want to rush a young guy's with that kind of talent back because he's still recovering from that torn ACL. I think that's the only reason why the Jets were considering. But it'll give Mr. Aaron Rodgers another weapon out of the backfield.
And actually less emphasis on him to have to throw the ball, so that might help a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we talked about this with Dalvin Cook a few weeks ago. Some like the various places that he could go. I know you wanted him to go to Buffalo. We'll talk to Buffalo because they had sent a couple of their key guys in a second. Let's see here. Maybe Philadelphia. I don't know what their cap situation is.
They got a bunch of running backs on the roster already, so
yeah, might be a little crowded there.
Yeah, it is crowded there.
Maybe Jacksonville. Like I said, he's from around that area. He went to Florida State, so maybe Jacksonville. They could always use another running back. Let's see who else. I know. I'm sure the Bears.
I know Miami's on top of that list, and
yeah,
like I said, it'll be a great fit for the Dolphins. But Tua Tagovailoa, say that 5 times fast. He has to stay healthy for that offense to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another thing. And it's like I said, it's gonna be interesting. I'm sure he's gonna want to try to be in a roster by training camp. I'm talking about Cook. So I know that Good Morning Football guys have said that Dan Orlovsky from ESPN. I know yes, his food takes are not very good, but he actually is a pretty good football analyst. But we won't get into that. But yeah, he's actually also he actually is making the case for just the opposite. He does not think that he'd be a good fit. I'm talking about could be a good fit with the Jets. I know he has said Buffalo. I know a couple other teams he said as well. Perhaps might be a better fit for him. But I mean. I like the fact that the Cookie is taking his time, but I'm wondering, I'm sure he's going to want to, go to a place where he'll have a chance to win a ring. But also, too, I'm sure he probably going to want to see where he's going to get some touches.
Yeah, and if you're Dalvin Cook, that should be your concern right now. Where can I go get the touches, and where's the team who has the best chance to win? I keep saying Buffalo, but with the head coach Sean McDermott being stubborn many times, okay, let's just say if you're Dalvin Cook, you do sign with Buffalo. Are you going to guarantee me a certain amount of touches? We all know that Sean McDermott likes to run Josh Allen into the ground. Well, hopefully that right elbow injury is healed up from last year. Because if it's not, Buffalo's going to be in trouble. They can have the best running back in the league on their team, but if you running Josh Allen more than you giving carries to your running back, it's going to be a problem. We all already know that Stephon Diggs is unhappy again, so – they got to get that situation taken care of right before the season starts, right before training camp, you assume. So I just don't know what's going on with the Sean McDermott and the rest of that Buffalo Bills front office right now. They have the talent there. They do, but just they can't get out of their own way sometimes.
Well, they actually just extended both Brandon B, who's a GM, and McDermott to a new contract for the 2027 season. So I'm sure ownership may have a different idea. So it's going to be interesting to see what Buffalo does, especially with the fact that now you're going to have the Bean and McDermott in the fold. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they can get that situation with Diggs. Who knows whatever the situation is, who knows what that is entailing. But I said, I mean, maybe Baltimore for Cook. I mean, I think Baltimore might be a good place for him. They can always use more running backs. That way they might have to use his legs a lot. So. And keep the injuries to a minimum there. So yeah, look, there are places where Cook could go. Now, I know some people, I know of course the Kansas City folks would love to have him on, but y'all got a bunch of running backs, so don't get greedy.
Actually, Jerry McKinnon didn't do bad last year for them. Isaiah Pecchio, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He did a good job for them toward the end of last season as well. So, and plus they had some salary cap issues anyway, so Dalvin Cook wouldn't fit on their team even if they did want him.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see what he does there. Anything else football wise that's got your kind of ears perked up before we start let's talk about training camp and whatnot?
Oh, I wanted to bring up an article that I found over the weekend. This is courtesy of our good friends at CBSSports.com. Jared Dubin had a great article. You guys can check it out. He had a ranking the 2023 NFL triplets coming into the season, and he listed his top 6, and we'll go through them very quickly. He has at number 6 from the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, running back Tony Pollard, and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. Of course, Dak Prescott is going on in that last year, that guaranteed deal. He needs to have a big year. Of course, Tony Pollard is recovering from that injury he suffered in the playoffs last year. And CeeDee Lamb really had a breakout year last year. That's the number one wide receiver for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and also to remember with Zeke now gone, he hasn't found a team yet either. So yeah, with Zeke gone, I mean, we'll see how Power looks when we get into training camp. He didn't participate in OTA, so I'm wondering how he's gonna look. So, and a lot of pressure going to be on Mr. Prescott to try to perhaps maybe he could have that breakout year because, like you said, this is the last year of that guaranteed money. So it's gonna be interesting though. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I can live with them being at number 6.
Okay, in Tier 2 at number 5, according to Jared Dubin of CBSSports.com, ranking the 2023 NFL triplets. Checking in at number 5, the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, who will be looking for fresh cash soon. Also, Eckler, who's returning to the team after failing to get a trade request. And wide receiver Keenan Allen, who's been injured the last couple of years. I forgot who we had on from Locked On Chargers, but we talked about Keenan Allen, one of being the best underrated wide receivers in the league, but injuries have caught up with him the last couple of years. But as well as I do, he puts up great numbers whenever he's healthy. And this trio is looking good going into the season. Of course, they have new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore after what happened in Jacksonville last year, blowing that big-time lead in the playoffs. But if this trio is healthy, they could do it again, and expectations are higher for the Chargers team this year.
Especially with Kellen Moore taking over as OC. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see how this new offense will look. I mean, we know Eckler was not very happy last year. He didn't get a lot of touches. Plus, he was hurt too a lot, so that didn't help his cause either. With the trade value. So hopefully, he can maybe he can have a good a great season coming up, and perhaps maybe get that money that he probably desperately want. So yeah, I mean, look, that those three are great together when they're all healthy, and I think that's been the problem the last few years. So
yeah,
but yeah, so I'm looking forward to this new breakout. I mean, I think they're going to give the Chiefs some fits.
Yeah, I think they will too. Checking in at number 4 on Jared Dubin's list, the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, running back James Cook, and Stephon Diggs. So of course, James Cook, for the record, is the younger brother of now free agent running back Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook, yep, that's his brother. So yeah, so that's another reason why a lot of folks he might want to go back, go Buffalo because his kid brother's there. But yeah, it'll be interesting though with that. I mean, look, if they can get big brother Dalvin to come there, that can only help a little bit, especially with that running back and the running back position. I know hates it that Allen's been leading the team in rushing the last few years, so I don't think he likes that at all. I know he's probably told you that, but yeah. I think. Look, they need something to break out. And look, whatever Diggs, hopefully they'll figure that out before training camp because you don't want that to be a detraction or an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that.
Checking in at number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles with the Jared Dubin writing this: quarterback Jalen Hurts, running back you tell me. LOL. Of course, they have Rashard Penny, DeAndre Swift, who they acquired via trade during the draft. Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, and of course, wide receiver AJ Brown.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a running back by committee over there in Philly. So it'll be interesting what direction. And I'm sure. Look. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's gonna be as long as if you're an Eagles fan, I think you gotta be feeling pretty good. You won't have Jalen Hurts won't have to use his legs too much, and Nick Sirianni will not have to worry about him using his legs a lot. So you got all those running backs. So yeah, you got Brown, of course. I'm sure he'll have his touches. And look, I'm sure I know they want to kind of break that Super Bowl runner-up curse. Since he did it last year, but I know that it's going to be interesting because they got a pretty tough schedule. So we'll see where they're at.
Okay, now we go into Tier 1, according to Jared Dubin of CBSSports.com, ranking the 2023 NFL triplets coming into the season. At number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs, quarterback Patrick Mahomes, running back Isaiah Pacheco, and tight end Travis Kelce, the ageless one.
Self-exclamatory there.
Yeah. And at number 1, the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, who's looking for fresh cash very soon. Running back Joe Mixon and wide receiver Jamar Chase will also be looking for fresh cash very soon.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how those three look because, like you said, 2 of those guys who are happen to be old teammates from LSU, they're going to be looking for some fresh paper. So, going to be interesting to see where they're at. But yeah, look, I don't mind that. I mean, that list, I mean.
Yeah, so check out that article at cbssports.com, and it's under the NFL section. Of course, wrapping up with that list, Lakina, with Cincinnati, it's going to be interesting to see what type of year that T. Higgins is going to have as well, because according to many pundits and experts, using air quotes here, he may be the odd man out. And if that's the case, if you're GM Ryan Poles going back to the Chicago Bears, do you think about acquiring his services around this time next year?
It'll be interesting though. Like I said, they may not have a lot of, they got to pay Burrow, they got to pay Chase. So yeah, Higgins could be that odd guy out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that whole thing as we get closer to training camp. So we'll still be talking to NFL here. So folks, don't feel we're not going to talk about, we're still going to talk some NFL. So no problem at all. We're going to take a really quick break, a last break for the show for this, for today anyway. Of course, we'll delve a little bit more into some hockey, talk about the Hockey Hall of Fame, with the Hawks now on the verge of picking Connor Bedard on Wednesday night, and also too, I know right. We might trade it, so who knows? But also too, of course, I know it's got some media news. Of course, as a long time ESPN anchor says goodbye, and of course, old school TV Monday as we wrap up Black Music Month here in June, the last Monday here. Lots to do still. Lakita McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll wrap days up coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports on a Monday edition. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. We're in our last break of the show for today. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80 on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow me at Kina McGee on the Twitter and at Kina's Good Again, the IG.
And if you want to get those last minute questions or comments in for the show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. And Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so now we really did really get a chance to kind of really delve into it because we're up against it on Friday. But yeah, the Hockey Hall of Fame, of course, announced its opening class last week. Of course, Hendrik Lundqvist, who, of course, we know that he's one of the top goalies in the league, for many years with the Rangers and such. And, he leads the class, a pretty solid class. So we'll get to the rest of the class in a second. But yeah, it's actually been his accomplishment with the Swedish national team. I know they won a gold medal, so that sort of also helps him with that front. But yeah, he's a great analyst. Did a great job over at Turner, so very deserving Hall of Fame favor for Mr. Lundqvist. And he's pretty. Yes, he is cute. Yeah, I will not dispute that. I know you said admit too.
Yeah. As I said last Friday, he was a great goalie for the Rangers. Took it to the Stanley Cup final back in. He took it to the Stanley Cup final in 2014 before bowing down to the Los Angeles Kings in a tough 5-game series. But he was Mr. Consistent in front of the net. He was one of the tough net miners during his era of hockey. And too bad he couldn't get a Stanley Cup ring to cap off his career. But he's going in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto regardless. So hats off to him for a great career and for the Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Vernon, who has a couple of Stanley Cups too. Of course, he won a cup with the Flames in 1989, as well as with the Red Wings back in, I think it was 97. I want to say 97 or 98.
Yeah, 97.
Yes. Yeah. 97. Okay, so I was right. But yeah, so yeah, another top goalie. There's a kind of a theme. There were a lot of these with some of these goalies. So another deserving, I guess. Kind of like he was definitely one of those guys. You're very tough-minded. Stood on his head, especially. I remember that '89 Stanley Cup, and it was he was one of the reasons why the Flames won that. And they actually beat the Kings, on their way to that cup. So he was, definitely one of the more underrated goalies, I should say, in the league.
I remember Lenny McDonald's playoff beard and facial hair. You can barely see what he looked like. I know he's hanging on to some of that because he's still living today. But I remember, what do you look like? You hiding behind all that hair.
Right. Yeah. I remember he said he actually liked the beard. That's why he kept it. So I don't know if it but yeah. But yeah, he had a goal against average of 1.76, a save percentage of 90, just under 93, and he was a 3-time All-Star. I'm talking about Vernon was. So yeah, just another solid goalie there. Of course, let me see here who else made it. Also too, of course, Tom Barrasso. Another goaltender again. It's a theme here. All these goaltenders said he won the Vezina Trophy as a rookie with the Sabres back in '84. He was runner up for the award the following season, of course, as top goalie in '91, '92. Barrasso, I should say, backstopped the Penguins to back-to-back cups, and he managed to play 10 more seasons after that. He finished his career with a 3.24 goal against average and just under 90% save percentage and 38 shutouts in his 777 game career.
Yep, you can't argue with those numbers, and like I said, ranks up right up there with his classmates. And so, congratulations to him. What more can you say? Look, your speeches, you read off those numbers, especially it ranks among some of those the best in his era.
Absolutely. Of course, Pierre Turgeon, of course, you remember that name. Sid, and of course, from 88 to 94, he scored a total of 242 goals, which ranked 10th, in 8th, I should say, in that time span. Also, too, he had a consistent 20-goal scorer. He hit the 30-goal. He did a 30-goal scorer mark 3 times. Played for 6 different franchises. Probably one of the better players in the league. So I'm glad he's made it to the Hall of Fame. Ken Hitchcock. Oh crap! Really? Oh, darn to say, my little 4th winningest coach in the NHL history with 849 victories over 22 seasons. He led of course, the Dallas Stars to their first and only cup back in '99, and took
that should have been Buffalo's, but I digress.
Right, that's true. He took the team, the same team the next year. Of course, they lost to the Devils that year, and coached 5 different teams, to the playoffs. 14 of his 22 years there. So another solid coach. They're probably one of the more underrated coaches in the league, I think. Ken, I'm so glad he's finally getting his due. Caroline Ouellette, who was a highly decorated career in the Canadian women's national team, won 4 gold medals with the Canadian team. 59 world championship games, have 4 pieces. She racked up actually 10 gold medals throughout her career. In her career, of course, playing in various women's hockey leagues in the NWHL and the CWHL, which is the Canadian Women's Hockey League, too. So a nice career for her, and probably still, I think she still does TV work though too for the Canadian. I think she does some work on TSN, I believe, with their hockey, both the men's and the women. So nice career for her as well. I'm glad she's getting her due. And I think there's one more. My darn thing froze. My thing froze. Of course it did. Pierre LaCroix, who Sally is. Pierre LaCroix, who Sally is no longer with us. Remember, he died from COVID a couple years ago. So, of course, LaCroix probably one of the best front office guys. He served as GM for the old Quebec Nordiques and, of course, the Colorado Avalanche from 94 to 06. They reached the playoffs every season during his tenure there. He bought 2 Stanley Cup champions, in 96 and 01 with the Avalanche. They won 8 division titles with him at the helm. And so he'll be inducted posthumously. So really great class of NHL, Hockey Hall of Famers, I should say. Just not just NHL, but all of Hockey Hall of Famers. So congrats to them.
Yeah, it's a great class. But I remember tweeting out last week via the NHL Network. They had a list up there, and they featured 2 former Blackhawks, Jeremy Roenick and Corey Crawford. Do you think either or both will eventually get into the Hockey Hall of Fame? I know Jeremy Roenick's in the USA Hockey Hall of Fame, but do you think him and Corey Crawford, or both or either one, will eventually get in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto in the near future?
Yeah, they were both finalists. I think they will get it eventually, just because for their accomplishments, of course, with everything that Roenick does. I think maybe his past mistakes might come back to bite him in the butt. I'm talking about Roenick, so that might keep him out of the Hockey Hall of Fame. We'll see. Crawford, I think we'll get into. I think, look, he's still very young. I don't even think he's 40 yet, which is kind of weird to see if we think about it. But of course, he was part of those 2 Stanley Cups, for the Blackhawks, the last 2 of those cups. So I'm sure he'll get in, but I'm sure he'll get in at some point. I mean, some other folks that didn't get in, Rob Brindamore, I'm surprised he didn't get in. I would have thought he would have gotten in this year. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll get in eventually. Like the Hockey Hall of Fame is I don't want to say they're very selective, but they're kind of like, okay, look, again, this year is more of a goalie theme, so maybe next year will be a defensive theme or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. But yeah, this is actually a good class, so I don't have too many issues with it. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that Brendan Moore and Roenick and Crawford. I think his youth might have a little bit to do with it too. But yeah, but what do I know?
Yeah, I think Crawford's going to have to wait a while, but I think eventually he'll get in. Jeremy Roenick, in my personal opinion, should have been in years ago, but I think he'll eventually get in. Now, how many more years he's going to have to wait, I don't know. But I think you're correct. They'll both of them will eventually get in, but how much longer are they going to wait?
Yeah. So now let's congrats to all the Hockey Hall of Famers. It should be a fun summer coming up later this year.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you.
We're still, yeah.
Yeah. You listening to Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. As we still have a few more minutes left in our Monday edition of the program. I want to talk a little bit about the sports media news and it affects us here in Chicago. This story actually broke over the weekend. First, according to Jeff Agrest, the deputy sports editor of the Chicago Sun-Times, it looks like the Chicago Cubs will join the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees as the latest teams in Major League Baseball to direct-to-consumer streaming services. Accounting for the recent trend toward cord cutting, Marquee Sports Network announced plans to launch a direct-to-consumer streaming service, enabling viewers to watch the Chicago Cubs games without paying for a cable or satellite subscription. While details remain scarce, the service could be available as soon as next month, according to Cubs President of Business Operations, Mr. Crane Kenny. In a recent interview that Crane Kenny participated in on 670 The Score, the Cubs radio flagship station, he said, and I quote, "To reach our fans that cut the cord, we're introducing a streaming service this year. We are aiming for July, sometime after the All-Star break, to bring service to those who say, I cut the cord, I do not have Fubo, which we are available on, but I would like to buy Marquee individually, just the channel to see Cubs games," end quote. Lakina, it looks like this trend is starting to continue. And with the cord cutting process has been going on for many years, viewers and people in general are saying that I'm not going to pay too much for this subscription service or the cable services. The prices are going up seemingly like every year. It looks like every month or so. People would like to pay exactly for what they want. And for Cubs fans, this is a great option for them. You can pay just to watch what you want, almost like an a la carte service. And this is the trend that the professional sports, I think, in general, are going in. We talk about the Bally Sports situation with the Diamond Sports, the group that owns those regional sports networks. The old model of the regional sports networks are dying, and so it looks like these. We already talked about last week with a couple of teams in the NBA with the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz airing their games next year on the over the air channel, and also offering streaming services for their fans to watch their games as well. For the Cubs and for the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, they're doing it in baseball, doing it to a direct consumer service. People, as we say all the time, people want and need options, and this is another way for your product to reach out to your group of fans. Not everybody wants cable anymore. And not everybody wants to pay for 2 or 3 subscription services like your Fubo and your Fubo and Hulu TV and YouTube TV. You have all the channels on one, but you got to pay another subscription service to get another channel. And people don't want to go through that, and I don't blame them. So I think this is a good move for the Cubs, and it's just going to increase their viewership even more. So this year with the team being competitive, I think that the Cubs will do well because there's always going to be interest with the Chicago Cubs. They're not just a local team in Chicago with interest. They're a national team as well. You could thank WGN in the 80s for their popularity. And that, continuing on with the article, the Cubs joined the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees as early adopters of the direct-to-consumer model, offering paid monthly subscription services on NESN and YES, respectively. This could be a smart pivot for the Cubs, who have experienced declining viewership of late because the team has been struggling the last couple of years. But a product of both the team's irrelevance and the prevailing cord cutting phenomenon with streaming and the a la carte services emerging as legitimate threats to cable. So as we said before, people want and need options. And this is a great thing for Cubs fans and for baseball fans in general. As I talked about before with Lakina, the Major League Baseball has his own, or MLB TV has his own rules of blackouts, in which that rule has been hitting us for years. If you live in the state of Iowa, you cannot watch certain teams. I believe it's like 5 or 6 teams. Of course, both Chicago teams, the White Sox and the Cubs, the Kansas City Royals, the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Minnesota Twins, I believe. Those are the teams. If you live in the state of Iowa, you cannot watch. So it's embarrassing. And you got to make your product more available to more people to widen your audience as big as possible. We know that attendance has been on a decline around Major League Baseball for the last few years, minus the 2020 COVID season. So if you're Major League Baseball, you need to do your marketing and do it much better than you are right now, marketing your stars, making your games available to everyone across the United States and across the world as well. And with these blackout rules, it's just silly. So once again, the Cubs are the third Major League Baseball team to start a direct-to-consumer service, courtesy with the Marquee Sports Network, and that's going to come out in the month of July, sometime after the All-Star break. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. Hopefully, Lakina will rejoin us before we close out shop for today. Let's get into back into the hockey, as the NHL draft for 2023 will take place on Wednesday from the city of Nashville, Tennessee. Of course, the Blackhawks will have the number 1 pick. Of course, the Blackhawks cannot say officially who they drafted, but I was watching NBC Sports Sunday locally here in Chicago last night, and Hawks GM Kyle Davidson was interviewed by Mike Berman of NBC's 5 Sports here in Chicago, of course, friend of the show. And Mr. Berman asked Kyle Davidson about have they decided who they drafted yet. Of course, Kyle Davidson said, we haven't decided yet, in respect to our scouting staff, but we won't reveal that who will be drafted. I'll give them all the credit, just paraphrasing a little bit there at the end. But it'll be disastrous if the Chicago Blackhawks don't draft Connor Bedard. I know there's some other players that are just as equal or talented as him in this draft this year. This is a deep draft for the National Hockey League this year, but Connor Bedard makes the most sense for Chicago. As we talked about before in this show, it speeds up the process just a little bit for the Hawks to rebuild after you let go of Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith, and all those guys who won you those championships over a decade ago. It's a great start to this rebuild. If you draft Connor Bedard, it's going to look good on the resume for Kyle Davidson, but this team still has a long way to go. And let's be honest here, this is a business move as well, because when it was announced over a month ago that the Hawks will have the number 1 pick in this year's draft, regular season ticket sales, both full and partial, went up a big percentage there. So Hawks fans, if you're a longtime Blackhawks fans, or you just jumping back on the bandwagon after those championship years, you want to see what the Hawks look like, because those teams that won the Stanley Cup the previous decade were fun to watch. And with the talent of Connor Bedard, who has a little bit of Connor McDavid and Patrick Kane in him, you want to see what this guy is made of, first of all. And number 2, you want to see, how Kyle Davidson puts a better team around him. You got to put some veterans around him to help Connor adopt himself into the NHL game. Of course, he's 18 years old. If you've seen him in interviews already, he's well-spoken, and he carries himself like a professional. And that's what you want a guy like that to represent your organization. And having a polished star like that with the talents of a veteran-like presence already, it's only going to help him grow. And hopefully the Blackhawks can market him not only to the hockey fans here in Chicago, but other fans involved, so they can get used to him and help grow the game a little bit more. Hopefully the Hawks will start winning again and draw some more fans to go back into the United Center this coming fall for the 2023-24 season. Going back to baseball, just quickly before we hopefully get to close out for Old School TV Monday. Of course, the White Sox, as we mentioned, they start their 7-game road trip on the West Coast. They have 4 against the Anaheim Angels, 3 night games, including starting tonight. And they have an afternoon game on Thursday. And, of course, they go to Oakland. The Friday night game is a night game, of course, it's Saturday. And next Sunday will be afternoon games. Of course, the White Sox still trail the Minnesota Twins by 6 games in the AL Central. They've been terrible on the road this year. They have a better record at 500 at home. But as I said to Lakina in the previous hour, the Sox need to go at least 5-2, 4-3 at worst to salvage a winning record on this road trip. They need to show they can be consistent on the road. There are a few games under 500 away from Sox Park. And you talk about guys that are heating up with the bats. Luis Roberts heating up with the bat. Jake Berger of the Yasmani Grandal had a home run over the weekend against the Red Sox. So it's been the starting pitcher in the bullpen who's been improving over the last month for the White Sox that has been keeping the Sox barely afloat, but they still have a lot of work to do. Let's see if Lakina decides to rejoin us after her audio issues. Lakina, are you there?
I'm here. I'm back.
Okay. I want to get your thoughts about Connor Bedard. Yeah, I want to get your thoughts about Connor Bedard hopefully being selected by the Blackhawks on Wednesday. As I previously mentioned before you rejoined us, that it'll be a disaster if Connor Bedard is not selected by the Blackhawks. Because remember, last month after it was announced that the Blackhawks will have the number one pick on Wednesday night's draft, all those calls to the United Center ticket office went up 1,000%. Both full and partial season tickets. If they don't select Bedard, all the Blackhawks fans will be rightfully upset.
Yeah, I think there will definitely be some anarchy there if they don't select Bedard. I think that's going to be fine. I think he'll definitely be one of those guys. They're definitely, like I said, ticket sales are already up at the UC, and I'm happy that that they got this chance to have to kind of do a lot of things to kind of like, look, are they still like at least a couple years away from being good from being playoff contenders. But I think, look, getting a generational talent, well, we'll see how he does. I mean, look, the Blackhawks have done pretty well with generational talent. You had like not one but two guys with Jonathan Tays and of course Patrick Kane as well. So it'll be interesting to see what he does for what I'm talking about Bedard does there. And of course there are rumors now that that Taylor Hall, who is a veteran left winger, is actually going to be going to Chicago. It looks like this is according to Elliot Friedman, who is a hockey blogger. He's saying that that Taylor Hall could be will be going to Chicago. So so things are good up for Mr. Kyle Davidson and the Blackhawks so far. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, as I said before you rejoined us, Kyle Davidson needs to get veterans in here to surround Connor Bedard to get him used to the NHL style of game and getting used to how to carry himself as a pro, both on and off the ice. If you saw him in interviews throughout the playoffs, both in USA and in Canada, he is a polished individual. He carries himself very well. So he still has some learning to do, but I think surrounding himself with the right veterans, I think he's going to be okay.
Absolutely. So he's definitely very engaged. I'm talking about Bedard. So he's definitely one of those guys that could definitely be kind of like the face of your franchise. So I think, look, I'm sure that the Hawks going to we'll see what he does on the ice, but he definitely is a good one there. So what else did I miss while I was
your quick thoughts about the Cubs, Chicago Cubs joining they're the third Major League Baseball team next to the Yankees and the Red Sox, direct to consumer service. Crane Kenny, who was on the score over the weekend, said that their service, courtesy of Marquee Sports Network, they're going to release it to fans sometime after the All-Star break. Direct-to-consumer service.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that, I think, because like you said, people need options. So I think this is going to be interesting, to see if other teams start following suit. You want to have that, look, you still got to deal with the core cuts. You're still dealing with folks who are preferring to we have stuff like Sling TV and YouTube TV and those types of things. So this is going to be interesting to see if other professional teams, we've seen it with MLB. I know a couple other NBA teams are now doing it. So we'll see if other teams start following suit. And remember, with both the Blackhawks, the White Sox, and the Bulls, with their new TV deals are up like next year on NBC Sports Chicago. We'll just see if they decide to do something like this. So I'm sure a lot of teams will be looking at this.
Yeah, and don't forget Jerry Reinsdorf. His group is now the full ownership of that sports online sports channel stadium, which their studios are inside the United States. So will he use that as a tool to negotiate against NBC Sports Chicago around this time next year? We'll soon find out, but we'll have a long way to go before we get to conclusion of that one.
Absolutely, and it looks like we may have a team for Hard Knocks. This is according to Mike Florio. That's one of the reasons why I was gone for a second. Of course, according to Mike Florio, a source told him that that it looks like the Jets will be the Hard Knocks team this season. So again, we'll see if this will be official, but at least for right now, it looks like the Jets are going to be the team for Hard Knocks, even after Robert Saleh said, no, we're not interested. So I guess the NFL is making them do it.
Yeah, like we said before, for the last couple of weeks, with all those teams turning the league down, someone eventually is going to have to do it. So we're going to see Aaron Rodgers singing Taylor Swift songs. Of course, we mentioned Robert Saleh. He's going into his third year as head coach. You know as well as I do, if you don't win in your third year, you'll be getting a pink slip and link card. So there's going to be a lot of cameras on him as well. So it should be interesting. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs tuning to this one, especially because of Aaron Rodgers first and foremost.
Especially so. So yeah, let's go to old school TV Monday, please.
All right, old school TV Monday as we conclude June, which is Black Music Month. Lakina, as the evolution of cable TV was taking place in the 80s into the 90s, especially musically. You had VH1, MTV, BET, and the fourth music channel was The Box, originally named the Video Jukebox Network. That's right. It was an American broadcast cable and satellite television network that operated from 1985 to 2001. The network focused on music videos, which, through a change in format in the early 90s, were selected by viewer requests via telephone. As such, unlike competing networks like MTV and VH1, the videos were not broadcast on a set rotation. The network was distributed on cable and satellite providers with additional carriage on over-the-air UHF television stations, mainly on lower power outlets. Most of these stations later became affiliates of MTV2 following the shutdown of the Box's U.S. operations, which had been sold off as of 2012, while Viacom remains ownership of the other remaining former Box affiliates. The Box's UK operations remain on the air today, now fully owned by the London-based Channel 4 Television Corporation. Lakina, real quick, I know we're up against it, but I remember watching those videos way back when. They had all genres of music from pop, rock, especially with R&B and hip hop. They had various artists, especially black artists back then. We were both the same age here. We couldn't dial that 900 number back then, but I would have gotten in trouble. Trust me, I would have gotten in trouble if I did back then. Remember, for our younger listeners and viewers, there was no social media, there was no internet, there was no cell phones, no smartphones, and none of that jazz. There was no texting nor sexting back then either. So you had to call the 900 number to request your videos. But I remember sneaking in a couple of times in the front room in my old mama's house to watch The Box. If the video wasn't shown at the time on MTV or BT, you always turn to The Box and wait patiently for your video to play. Those were great times back then. And the reason why I wanted to celebrate the Box TV network today, they broke a lot of videos, especially in the game of hip hop back then. They were eventually shown on MTV and BET.
Yeah, it was actually because of that, because they were so popular on there that that a lot of them didn't have a choice. Both BET and MTV didn't have a choice, but to play some of those. And look,
exactly.
I remember that channel, and like you said, I mean, it was one of those channels where it kind of like you could definitely say it was kind of like I said, iTunes before iTunes, or
yes,
some of the other various ones, before
Napster,
Pandora,
Pandora,
Napster, Spotify, all those folks. And look, I mean, this is sort of like music television you control, if you remember that their slogan there. Us 90s kids, I mean, look, you saw some of those videos definitely wore you out, whatever the genre. I mean, I think I remember the Spice Girls, Wannabe. I think that was played like about 100 times.
Yes.
Mark Morris's Return the Mac. I remember that song being played a lot. And of course,
Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back. How do you think that became popular?
Yeah, that was very
Two Live Crew, especially Two Live Crew. With Luke Campbell going through all those censorship issues at that time. You can always turn to The Box, and their videos were playing right there.
yeah, absolutely. Some of those, like I said, there were many music, channels and TV, music videos that were definitely, one of those. Like I said, you saw, that's where you first saw them. You first saw them on The Box. You didn't see them on MTV or BET or VH1. You saw them on that particular channel. And look, it was, it was for everybody. I'm sure everybody did it. They all, called, to see, their favorite channel, on your remote or on your phone or whatever. This was before texting, folks. Remember, like Sid said. So it was definitely one of those channels where it kind of it broke a lot of the mold, I guess, for a lot of music videos and such. So before TRL, while Video Soul was very popular, and some of the other various avenues and such, I mean, The Box was the channel to watch back then. So from 1985 to 2001, like you said, Sid, once TRL and Rap City and those shows started becoming popular, that was kind of when The Box sort of lost its edge.
I was sad when it turned into MTV2. I was sad when it turned into MTV2. I was like, we can't go anywhere to go watch the videos whenever you want. You could, that channel operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And if you didn't see your video right away, you can always get some rest, come back later, turn to see if your video play. Eventually, it will play, but sometimes you had to wait a while. But your video will eventually get played if you didn't dial that 900 number, like yours truly. Like I said, if I was a grown man back there, I would have dialed it so many times.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there were so many songs that people wanted to see over and over and over again. I mean, there were times when, there were, I think Snow's Informer. That was another song that was very widely popular on that channel. What else? I'm sure there were like a bunch of other. I know one of Outkast's first big hits, I think, was played on the box. I forgot which one it was, but yeah, I mean, look, I think every genre pretty much for the most part was covered. I mean, they had a lot of the pop hits, like I said, Spice Girls. That was one of the reasons why they became so popular, was because of the box. Like I said, that's how Wabi was played a lot. NSYNC, one of their first songs was played a lot during that time. Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, Britney Spears, Mandy Moore, Christina Aguilera. Yeah, right before that network shut down.
Yep, that was like right at the tail end of that. So yeah, I mean, but it started all the way back in 1985. Like I said, for those of us, look, we didn't get cables. Like I said, we didn't get cables until around 1990. So when we saw that channel, like, wait a minute, there's actually such a channel where you can, request, if you will, of various your favorite music videos.
Yeah,
that's what you said. I can only imagine how that was for a lot of people. So, but yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, like I said, I mean, it's too bad we don't have this kind of thing now. Of course, like I said, we have Spotify and Pandora and iHeart and all those things. So, but yeah, the box definitely kind of set the tone, if you will. Like you said, you saw a lot, especially in the 80s, you saw a lot of hip hop, because there were still some, still MTV still wouldn't play a lot of hip hop songs. VH1 too, BET to some extent actually wouldn't play a lot of hip hop songs either. So that's when a lot of those songs started, coming. A lot of those guys became household names. Like I know NWA. I think they were having their big shot over at the box and such. Big Daddy Kane, among others. Houdini. I mean, this is gonna be, this is gonna be, I mean, look, this channel definitely kind of paved the way for a lot of those artists from the 80s right until like the late 90s.
Yeah, so like I said, it broke a lot of ground, especially in hip hop at the time, from the up and coming artists to the establishing artists. And so we like to salute for our Old School TV Monday in the closing of Black Music Month, Video Jukebox Network, aka The Box. Lakina, close us out.
All right, I'm getting songs stuck in my head right now. You follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and Akina Scribbing on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Don't forget to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else on all social media platforms at WARR Media.
All right.
And thank you very much for this video support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Sorry, I'm thinking about that network too, Lakina.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can find some old clips on it on YouTube here.
I'm sure they do. Of course, you can catch Sports on Chicago. Speaking of, I like to share and subscribe. You catch Sports on Chicago anytime, anywhere you want on Roku TV. Of course, whatever box you got, whatever device you have, type in Sports on Chicago on your Roku app, whatever what you have. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Buzz. I think What's Up Cuz is back tonight, so it's interesting to see what they've got coming up here. I'm sure they're gonna be talking about NBA free agency as well. So available on demand anytime, anywhere.
Yes, and we will provide.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy all the baseball that's coming down the pike. Of course, if you're into the WNBA and the soccer and everything else, you can check it out as well. But first, Sid, I'm Lakina. This is Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. And we'll see you Friday.
Music that you control. Go Sox! Holla!